Hello everyone and welcome along to my first proper Doctor Who episode review. I'm Elliot and today we're going to be looking at Dark Water and Death in Heaven. Now this might seem like a slightly random choice for a first episode review. I mean, it's Series 8 finale, it's not really a starting or a finishing episode, and to some degree it is random. I was just watching it a couple of weeks ago and thought, actually there's quite a lot to talk about from this episode. There's very much, I'd say, quite a divisive, well particularly the second part is quite divisive, so I thought might as well do a review on it. I watched it recently, so here's my thoughts on it. So to kind of set the scene for this episode, we came into it off the back of In the Forest of the Night, which was terrible. It really was terrible. I've literally only watched it once since it aired, and that was in a rewatch marathon thing, so I kind of had to, but that was so bad. But the trailer was good. That was what everybody was talking about after the episode, the trailer for the finale, which was, as far as I'm concerned, probably the most misleading trailer for a Doctor Who episode you've ever seen. If you haven't seen it or don't remember it, I'll put a link in the description. Go and watch it. And it does kind of suggest that it's going to be a very different story from what it actually is. It looks like Clara has turned bad by nicely editing the bit with the key scene. And then there is no Clara or Sod. Clara's never existed. And it made the episodes look the most amazing thing ever. And then it didn't quite work out. So firstly, looking at Dark Water, my much preferred part, the first part, much preferred part of the story. We start off with Danny, good old Danny Pink. I'll talk about him a bit more later, but he dies. And, well, one of the surprising things with Doctor Who, or with this episode compared to normal Doctor Who, is usually any death of any sort of character is dramatic. And they die saving the world, or it's tragic or dramatic, and the key difference here was it wasn't for Danny. He just got hit by a car. Although I didn't particularly care, but we'll talk about it a bit later. So yeah, that was a slightly surprising, and as Clara talks about it, the death was boring, mundane, and that's something that was a nice sort of change up from what we usually see with deaths of relatively significant characters in the series, where it's always a big leaving party and then dramatic death, saving the world, that kind of thing. And there was none of that this time, so that was a nice change up. Well, I might as well talk about it now. Danny Pink. Danny Pink. He just... Well, I think one of the biggest problems from an audience point of view with Danny was that he didn't like the Doctor, basically, and he was always trying to wind him up and annoy him. And I'd say generally, as an audience, at least for me, we tend to side with the Doctor and feel for the Doctor and want him to be right and to be good and that kind of thing. So when Danny's sort of being really annoying to him, saying, oh, he's this like general and that kind of stuff, I think it sort of makes us not want to like his character because he doesn't like the Doctor. So I feel like, although that's obviously the way it was meant to be written, but I feel like that makes it more difficult for us to care about him dying, other than Clara feeling sad about it, which we might care about. I like Clara, so somewhat, but if he'd written a really likeable character throughout the series, like when we used to have with Amy and Rory, Rory always died, but if he had in that scenario died, then we would have actually cared quite a lot. Well, we did when he sort of died, and it was all... Oh, well, anyway, forgetting that sort of comparison. But yes, that I felt was the biggest problem with Danny. Plus, he just wasn't that interesting a character, really. He was just a school teacher with some soldiery background to make him more of an interesting character. He killed someone in the past and that came back to haunt him, didn't it? Not that we really cared very much. I mean, that kid didn't even say a line throughout the 2 episodes. And then Danny just says, oh, I better save him because I killed him. And so on and so forth. So yeah, Danny's not a great character. But anyway, we'll carry on. So then we get, in terms of Dark Water, we get the key scene, throw away the key, or the track, which I think is an absolutely fantastic scene. The acting and showing how far Clara is willing to go to try and get Danny back. It really shows how desperate she's become, and her world is falling apart, if you like, as Danny's dead, and so she takes advantage of the Doctor, thinks she's in control, that classic, that's what the Doctor does, he's always in control, with the whole, it was just a dream, which, that was... It would be nice if it was real kind of thing, but I don't see how they got out of it. But so that was really well done, and then obviously the Doctor showing how much he cares for Clara, that even after that, he's still willing to help her, and still willing to try and find a person that he doesn't really like that much, I don't think. Well, he wants to know that Danny's good enough for her, really, I think, and so to show that he's just how much compassion the Doctor has, even in those sort of desperate times for her, and after she's done so much to betray his trust, as he said so much, that he'd still willing to help her, which is just fantastic. And although I did feel like they went unnecessarily dramatic with, oh, go to hell, he could have said it clearly just to try and get their reactions the way he said it like that. Just for TV, he said it like that. Where he could have just, oh yeah, we're going to hell, rather than just go to hell, which didn't actually make as much sense in normal speaking terms. But it's TV, whatever. So then after that we move to the afterlife, or the nethersphere, or heaven, or whatever you want to call it. With Danny's turns up there, and we get Seb, played by Chris Addison, who's just a fantastic character. We saw him briefly in The Caretaker, that was it, the end of The Caretaker, where he gets just his little 1-minute cameo. And then in this episode he's just fantastic with just playing, there's just the slightly campy comedic guy, sort of just taking it almost hardly seriously about this person who's died. Is just a fantastic character. When he does the stuff with the Wi-Fi and the iPad. Oh yeah, we got great Wi-Fi in the afterlife. Just we've got Steve Jobs. I love that line. That line is just I love that line. And yeah, he's just a great character, and he really plays it so well. And introducing Danny to the afterlife, trying to sort of contemplate the fact that he's dead, but he's sort of not dead, but he sort of is dead. It's kind of complicated. And so now we get on to Missy, someone who I have, as I've been avoiding in this review so far, because as I mentioned in the Series 9 review video, I did really like her in Series 9 in Mission Apprentice and Witch of Familiar. I really liked her portrayal a lot more, but in this two-parter I just sort of didn't like it so much. And I felt like she didn't need to be the Master. She could have just been another Time Lord, because John Sim playing the Master was a nutter, and he didn't play it like the Master, I feel, because Roger Delgado, the classic Master, he's still the best one, obviously. And I feel like when Russell started writing John Sim's Master, I feel like they went away from the character and kind of, because he's not or he or she, whatever, is not a nutter. He was a classic sort of suave, serious villain who, although he seemed to just like, the definition of sanity, trying the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Clearly that was the 1970s Master, trying to invade the world, joining up with aliens, and then the aliens would just turn on him at the last minute, and then he'd suddenly have to get the Doctor to help him save, and that was literally pretty much every single Master episode, which was quite funny. And that's also my problems with this episode, but I'll come to that later on with Missy's plan, which was, yeah. But yeah, so she, I think I would have liked her more initially, if she hadn't been the Master, because she just didn't need to be, and she fits in with the John Sim Master, but she doesn't fit in with the overall character of the Master, I feel, at least. And no, she's a woman, who cares, whatever. Time Lords can change gender, it's not the most amazing thing in the world. It happened. I still would have preferred her to be another Time Lord, but I wouldn't have cared if the Master became a woman at some point anyway. The Doctor can become a woman, but I feel like that should be done on the strength of there being a great actress to play the character, and not wait until the viewing figures are desperate and it looks like a desperate attempt to try and raise the profile of the series and get it back in news by saying, oh look, we've suddenly changed the Doctor to a woman after 57 years or 60 years or however long it will be by then. And so I feel like, yes, that would help the viewership, but you don't want to be just doing it out of the sake of trying to change something up because the show's struggling. You want to do it when the show's doing really well and you've got the right actress for the job. So it doesn't need to happen yet. Capaldi needs to stay forever, obviously, but I don't think the next Doctor needs to be a woman. But at some point it will happen. I'm 100% sure that it will happen, and as long as they pick the right actress and don't just do it for the publicity, then I think it'd be a great decision. But yeah, in terms of Missy, she's a bit of a nutter. She's bananas, as she says. And then we obviously... So then they meet up with the Doctor, and we get... Well, towards the end of the episode, finally sort of... Oh, actually, no, sorry, I'm muttering and mumbling and everything. And, well, we get the whole 3W thing with... What's his name? Dr. Chang, that was it, because Missy says it in some weird way. Dr. Chang... Or whatever. And he's a character, but it's basically a plot, moving on the plot character, really, isn't he? Alright, and then when they get into that sort of room with the Dr. Sclerosa and the likes, and I like the little nod to Malcolm Tucker from the thick of it, with the sort of like lots of swearing on his psychic paper, which I thought was just a tiny nod, but a great moment to just link it back to Capaldi's former character. Love the thick of it, great series, watch it if you haven't already, it's fantastic. And then we get the whole revelation of, don't cremate me, we're all going to be burned and feel it, and we'll just be in never-ending pain once we die, and this kind of thing. So, well, I'm not going to go into a deep afterlife thing, I don't want to. So, but it's interesting to explore different concepts, because that's the one thing, as in Heaven Sent, I always link anything to Heaven Sent, when the Doctor says, like, there's 2 moments in our life that we know absolutely nothing about. I think it's kind of the wording. It's when we're born and when we die, and what happens after that. And we're always trying to study skulls and stuff to see what's happening next, and because we just don't know. And so it's interesting to see different ideas and concepts. We had a bit of that in Torchwood as well. That was a bit depressing though. There's just nothing in Torchwood. There's nothing when you die. Basically, it's just black. That's what Owen had when he died. Oh, spoiler alert. Well, it's 8 years ago, so whatever. But yeah, so if you ever watched Torchwood, it's all a bit depressing if you haven't already. It's just, you just die, and then that's it, to go into them. But with this, you go into the Nethersphere, and then, well, actually, Moffat did leave it very open-ended at the end. With, like, because at the end, Danny sends the kid back, or whatever, and we can hear, I think we can hear Danny speaking a little bit, but it gives no indication as to where he actually is. So although Moffat's put in this supposed afterlife with the Nethersphere, which is kind of like a fake afterlife, if you like, but he still hasn't gone for anything too controversial overall with showing you what he thinks the actual real afterlife would be next. He's just left it completely open-ended, which I think was a good move, because even with this sort of afterlife just as it was all a little bit controversial at the time. I remember lots of people moaning about, oh, this is suitable for kids, this kind of thing and stuff, so I think that was a good move from him in not so great episode, Death in Heaven. But so it's an interesting concept, and obviously a quite scary concept with the we'll feel all the pain, and I love how when Seb and Danny and Seb asks him, "Oh, are you going to be cremated?" And he's like, "Oh, what?" And there's like, "Yep, you're being cremated. Cool. We've got another burner in here." I just love the way they sort of nonchalantly talk about him just getting burnt to death. So it's just brilliant lines and brilliant dialogue written by Moffat there, and then done by Chris Addison. So coming to the end of the first part of Dark Water, we have the Cyberman reveal that we'd known about for 6 months, I think, by that point. Because I'm sure it was like May or June when we had the Cybermen all out in the middle of London, and they just announces it. I know it was going to leak anyway because they're standing in the middle of London. I think someone's going to notice. But even so, it'd be nice if they'd at least tried to keep it a little bit quiet rather than just chucking out the press releases and the trailers and everything with, oh look, Cybermen, it's amazing. And so that was a little bit disappointing. And the Cybermen themselves, are really not that great anymore. I mean, I was just reading something, sort of some people's other thoughts about the two-parter and the Cybermen in general. And the problem with this episode, and with Nightmare in Silver, the previous proper Cyberman episode, was that they can basically do anything now. They suddenly just have new magical powers that we've never seen before. Yes, I can understand it with the sort of upgrading permanently and this kind of thing, but I feel like it's getting a bit excessive now, because they can now run as fast as they like, they can fly, they can turn the sky in, they can poison the sky and do all this kind of thing, and they're indestructible basically. So, and yet the Doctor still just defeats them all every single time, which kind of just defeats the point. So yeah, they're kind of a slightly ruined villain, because 1960s Cybermen are still the best. I mean, if you haven't seen the likes of Tomb of the Cybermen, The Invasion, those, they're black and white, so they're very old, but they are classic episodes, and they have great portrayals of Cybermen. Yes, The Invasion's a little bit long, it's like 3.5 hours, and the Cybermen don't turn up for about an hour and a half. But when they do, and they, obviously, they're the original, I'm sure you've seen the classic shots of the Cybermen outside St Paul's Cathedral, and that's just such a classic, iconic shot of the Cybermen from the 1960s. And that's still when they work their best, in the black and white. In the Tomb of the Cybermen, they just sort of, they're much better villains, and they're not sort of the perfect creation. They can't do everything, but they're much more canny, and they just portrayed a lot better back then. And then they just lost their way. And yeah, 1970s they're a bit meh. But then you had what, one story in the 70s actually, didn't they? Revenge of the Cybermen. Well, that's classic-ish. And then Earthshock as well. That's a good one. But then Silver Nemesis was terrible. And then, well, then they had the sort of trying to confuse it all with the old parallel world Cybermen as well, because they just decided to give us a genesis of the Cybermen story in a parallel universe, because they didn't want to go back and use the terrible Cybermen designs in the 1960s, or the original ones. Go check them out if you haven't, because they're quite a bit different, I think it's fair to say. But so yeah, they kind of lost their way, and then through all of New Who, you may not agree with me, but I think it's fair to say that the Cybermen have not had a good story since Earthshock, at least, if not the 1960s. I mean, the Cybermen two-parter in Series 2 wasn't very good. It was okay. Then the finale had so much else going on in it, Doomsday and everything. Yes, the Cybermen were part of it, but then suddenly the Daleks appear as well, because let's have Cybermen versus Daleks, Russell T Davies fanfiction there for you. And then, they came back in the next Doctor, that was terrible. Well, relatively terrible. Then, after that, they turned up in the Lodge. They didn't turn up in the Lodge, what I'm talking about. We had one Cyberman in episode 2, yeah, because that was like the Moffat thing, wasn't it? A Cyberman always appears in episode 12. Series 5 episode 12, Series 6 episode 12, 7, 8 and 9, every episode 12 there is a Cyberman in, from the Moffat era. Completely random, but that's just what Moffat somehow accidentally seems to love to do. So yeah, and then they had the, Defeated by Love, I think it was, in Series 6, what was it called, Closing Time. Yeah, that was pretty bad episode. I mean, see, Cybermen are indestructible, but they can be defeated by love, because that's how Doctor Who works now, yeah! And then Nightmare in Silver, I can't even really remember that one. How did they get defeated? Didn't they like blow up the planet or something? Maybe I'm completely wrong, I haven't watched this in like a couple of years, so... Yeah, but I remember it wasn't very good, I think it's fairly lowly rated. And then this one, the Cybermen aren't really the main part of it, they're just effectively robots controlled by Missy now. Whereas they used to be a proper alien race with interesting characters, like the old cyber leader, doing his best Mr. Burns impression with excellent. That was terrible, sorry. Might edit that one because that was actually terrible. But yeah, they were proper interesting. Now they're just all sort of robot. Oh, it's a robot army. It's like Star Wars. Missy's robot army rather than the Cybermen now. So that's really didn't get portrayed very well there, which was disappointing. One of the other sort of returning entities, if you like, is Units. They were back after being Day of the Doctor previously before that, and then they came back for this one. Had Kate Stewart back, Osgood back for a bit, and then they stuck him on the plane, and the Doctor became President of the world. Well, the unit didn't seem completely useless. They were pretty useless in this episode, but they weren't Magician's Apprentice style useless. I mean, they did at least sort of capture Missy for half an hour. Or like 10 minutes, and surrounded the Cybermen until they all flew away, because they can predict that. And I love that it'll throwing the classic Cyberhead down to say, oh well, yeah, we defeated you before, and they didn't really defeat them this time, did they? But yeah. So then they get up on Boat 1, the plane, where I like how now the unit's planes, the Doctor seems to have a way of destroying every one of their planes. So they must clearly have a rather large collection of planes, because well, he destroys this one, then they destroy the one in the Zygon invasion as well. So imagine they must just have a hangar full of these massive planes that they know, oh, the Doctor's here, we better build another one quickly because he's going to blow it up, isn't he? so yeah, they're not very efficient with their use of planes, but I'm sure when they next appear we'll get another one just because they can. So then, yeah, and then the Doctor becomes the president of the world and we get all these nods to the Brigadier and saying, oh, we should have saluted him, so let's link it up at the end, despite the fact that the Brigadier had never mentioned wanting to be saluted ever before. Sadly, never came back in New Who. So disappointing. He's such a great character. But yeah, he came in the Story Jane Adventures actually. Might want to check that out. I can't remember what episode it is. I think it's the first or second series. Just Google Brigadier Story Jane Adventures. I'm sure you'll get some clips up. But it's nice seeing him back in that. But he should have come back in Doctor Who. Why didn't Russell bring him back? He had 6 years up until 2011 when he died. He had I think it was like 5 years a couple of days ago since Nick Courtney passed away. So really sad, but. Because he was such a great character from Classic Who. He was just he played off pretty much every single Doctor. I think for 1 to 7. Well, he wasn't playing the Brigadier against 1. He was like I can't remember his name. Who was he? He was in Dalek Master Plan. Can't remember. But yeah, let me know if you can remember. I can't remember because Mavic Chen was the guy who played Tobias Vaughan in The Invasion. Sorry, we're going a bit off topic here. Oh, what was his name? Was it Kevin Stoney who played Tobias Vaughan and Mavic Chen? But I can't remember who Nick Courtney played. But anyway, getting very off topic. So the Brigadier never actually wanted to be saluted, but then suddenly he does. So let's bring him back as a Cyberman. Although I thought it was a nice little moment, another nod to the Brigadier when we actually saw him as a Cyberman. Yes, he was probably all disgusting-y under his mask, but it's best not to think about that. Just imagine the Brigadier standing there rather than the Cyberman with the horrible face inside. So, and it was great sort of that he saved his daughter. He was able to gain control from like cyber control and save his daughter, which was a nice moment. But, well, they couldn't save Osgood, could they? Osgood got killed. Well, one of the Osgoods, we still don't know which is which. Let me know if you think the one that died in Death in Heaven was the Zygon or not, because I can't remember. I think that Death in Heaven Osgood was the Zygon. There you go. That's literally just bucked out of my head now. It might have been based off something I can't even remember. I'm sure there was some discussion about like she's wearing the scarf so that made her it or something. I can't remember. But doesn't really matter. So yeah, let me know which one you think she was. Was she the Zygon or not? Are they both Zygons now? I can't remember because obviously Bonnie's now Osgood. Just there. So yeah, she died. And Missy just escapes the handcuffs and the 2 guards magically. Did she use some hypnotism or something? I mean, that's a pretty bit of a stretch that neither guard noticed her undoing the cufflinks, or not the cufflinks, the handcuffs. Yes. And neither of those soldiers who were standing right behind her noticed that she jumped up to Osgood. And then once she was standing next to Osgood, neither of them moved after that either. So I'm surely they must have been hypnotised, otherwise it's just a massive plot hole. But I mean, Missy or Master had her, whatever, their magical hypnotism abilities. So it's plausible, I guess you have to say. So then Osgood died. I'm not too bothered. I wasn't too bothered because she was just another character really. Wasn't my favourite. She was alright, she was nice, and she came back anyway, so it doesn't really matter anymore. Yeah! Good old Moffat bringing back dead characters. Can't kill off a character. Oh, killed off Danny though, actually. Well, he still brought him back in Last Christmas as a Dream. But Danny did actually die and stay dead, which must have been quite difficult for Moffat to actually bring himself to keep a major-ish character dead. I mean, he doesn't do that very often, does he? So, anyway, then after Osgood died, then we found out that Missy is the woman in the shop, the worst kept secret in Doctor Who, basically, after the first episode of Series 8, when they say, "Oh, who's that woman in the shop?" And Missy was the woman in the shop, and she left a message for them and everything, and it was, I mean, literally, as soon as we saw Missy at the end of Deep Breath, it was all like, yeah, she's the woman in the shop, that's fairly obvious. And 90% of the people thought she was the Master as well. I mean, her appearances through the series are also a bit pointless. I mean, the first one made sense, yeah, and although it didn't make sense, I mean, what was this stuff with the robots, and why were some of them robots and some of them normal people? It didn't really make any sense. Even at the end, it still didn't make any sense. Why were robots seeking the promised land? I mean, they're not going to put robots into robots, are they? So, yeah, maybe there's probably some explanation for that, but I can't remember what they are at the moment. So, link me to it if you've seen something about that. But yeah, so she was the woman in the shop. She put them together. Oh, my Clara, I have chosen well. Yeah, sure you have. Even though that became... I mean, this is some of the major problems with this episode is Missy's plans in general are just bad. She put them together because the control freak and the person who can't be controlled or something, wasn't it? Because she'll go to hell, and she put the two of them together so that she would meet Danny, Danny would die, they would show that she would take them to the afterlife, and it would all sort of work out and stuff. It was all just a bit contrived and didn't really feel like a satisfactory thing for who the woman in the shop was and the reason for putting Clara and the Doctor together. I was hoping something interesting, like, I don't know, Clara is like Missy's daughter or something. Ah, there's a bit of fan fiction for you. So yeah, but it was a bit of a poor resolution, I think. So after that, they finally all get down onto the graveyard with Danny the Cyberman, that I'd known since about April 2014 that he was going to be a Cyberman when those pictures leaked of him in a cyber costume standing on the graveyard, in the graveyard. I mean, that was pretty poor Doctor Who PR. Their Series 8 was a shambles for leaks, wasn't it? I mean, the first 5 scripts and episodes were leaked, which is just pathetic, utterly terrible. And the BBC clearly don't know how to manage their programme. I mean, they ruined Series 9 as well with the whole synopsises for the whole last episode with Gallifrey and stuff. Why did you have to tell us in a synopsis that Gallifrey was coming back? We were never sure of it. And Stephen Moffat's whole... Sorry, I've had a rant about this before. It just really annoys me. Stephen Moffat's like episode previews where he starts basically revealing, oh, someone's going to die in Face the Raven. You can't guess. It's going to be one of the 3 main characters. Oh, I wonder who it'll be. Will it be Rigsy? Obviously not. It can't be the Doctor, so clearly Clara's going to die. I mean, he was just terrible. But anyway, Danny's a Cyberman. We're all going to be sad. Clara's all, oh, he's a Cyberman. Oh, it's the end of the world. Oh, and we're just like, okay, Danny, he's a Cyberman. It's Danny Pink. Who cares about Danny Pink? I don't really care about Danny Pink, so... And the Doctor doesn't really care that much about Danny Pink. He cares about Clara, but he doesn't really care about Danny. He's just sort of has to do it because he cares about Clara. And then they have the whole thing about the Doctor proving that he's the General, but I feel like Danny's going over the top with this stuff, because what was the other option? Just letting the whole world die so that he could keep his emotions? I mean, it was just over the top, Danny. I mean, Danny, you don't know what you're talking about, really. Yes, he's probably is a bit of a general at times. He does send people to die and that kind of thing. I remember that, what was it, in The Stolen Earth? Or no, Journey's End, I think it was, with Davros, where he shows all those people that died because of him and stuff. And that does somewhat ring true, linking up here with Doctor being the General, telling people to die and that kind of thing, do his dirty work, if you like. But at this point, the Doctor needs to know this information. He needs to know, as the track is titled, Need to Know. And so, yeah, Danny was just making the Doctor feel extra bad about it. I mean, Danny's already dead. He was going to die. He was either going to go and kill, blow up, destroy the world, or just die, because he's already dead. So I feel like he should have just taken it on the chin, not been such an annoying person about it, and just sort of zapped it. So, and then he even got Clara to do it as well, which I thought was a bit much. So, did he get Clara to do it? Can't remember. Yeah, Clara did do it, didn't she? Yeah, she did. Sonic him. So it's slightly dodgy. We do that. Oh dear. So yeah, then he gives them hardly any information. Some cryptic clue about rain or something. I can't remember. And then Missy does a Mary Poppins impression and floats down from her umbrella just because she can. And then we get to one of my biggest problems with this whole two-parter, and why I just don't like Death in Heaven that much. It's just because Missy's whole plan is just rubbish. It's just bad. She wants to give the Doctor an army to show that they're not different. And why? Why? The Doctor says, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And she just gives him that terrible reason. It's just, the Mastersman attempt to take over the world, or turn the world into himself, or something more interesting, alien alliances and that kind of stuff. Not go to all this pointless effort to give the Doctor an army, just to make her feel a bit better and feel like, oh, actually I'm not the bad person in this relationship. We're equal, and it's just that's just put me off the episode, because it's just sort of a terrible, disappointing conclusion. And then Missy's just an idiot, really, that she doesn't notice or think about the fact that Danny isn't actually responding with all the other Cybermen, and that he can just take control within the space of a couple of minutes and they all fly away. Doctor does his "I'm an idiot with a box" speech. That was another terrible impression. I really shouldn't do about the impressions, because I just can't. I should just call this video Elliot's Terrible Doctor Who Impressions. But yeah, so the Doctor is an idiot with a box, with a screwdriver, passing by, helping out, blah blah blah. Makes a nice sort of roundup of the "Am I a good man" sort of arc of the series, if you like. And yeah, he's an alright man. He's done some bad things, but he's good at heart-ish. So yeah, that was Missy's terrible plan to just give the Doctor an army. So then we get towards the end, we see CyberBrig, as everybody likes to call him, as I mentioned before. It's a nice moment. Kate's obviously saved. I mean, you couldn't kill off Kate when they all fly out of get knocked out of the plane. Oh, I forgot to mention actually that sort of James Bondy-esque diving out of the plane and then flying up with the TARDIS key to the TARDIS. I think that's another way you could be critical of Moffat, of just randomly creating new ideas for established concepts that we've never seen before, just to suddenly sort of fill a plot gap. Suddenly the TARDIS key can magically pull you towards the TARDIS, rather than just sort of sensing, oh yeah, it's near, or something's happening. What's that? Oh, the Father's Day. I'm watching that soon. That episode where the TARDIS keys disappear or something happens to them. I can't remember exactly, but I'm looking forward to watching it, actually. It's a really good episode. But yeah, but it was still a good scene, even if it was a little bit sort of contrived. And I love the music to that scene as well. To be fair, actually, I love the music to the whole of this episode. These two episodes. Such a good soundtrack. It's probably playing in the background now, if I've done editing right. Then it will be. I mean, Throw Away the Key is probably one of my absolute favourite tracks of the series, and I Need to Know as well. That's such a great track. They Walk Among Us. Sorry, that's really good. What's it? The Majestic Tale of an Idiot with a Box. I quite like it. I don't think it's the most amazing track of the series like a lot of people do. I mean, it's quite a good sort of bombastic I Am the Doctor / Majestic Tale / A Good Man merged into one, because Moffat can't let go of I Am the Doctor, even though it's Eleven's theme. And so yeah, that's quite a good track. And yeah, but overall it is a great soundtrack for this episode, which is something that, because I'm a great fan of Doctor Who soundtracks and the likes, I find that often I can rate an episode slightly higher if it has an excellent soundtrack. Sometimes the plot's failings can just be slightly etched up by a great soundtrack. I'd say that would be with The End of Time in particular, slightly. I mean, the soundtrack to The End of Time, it's just brilliant. I would say it's probably one of my absolute, along with Heaven Sent, it's probably my two favourite sort of episode scores. And so some of the plot failings can be covered up by hearing the fantastic music that's going around. Yeah, clearly it's really, I shouldn't be doing this, really poor way of judging an episode, but you get the whole package with an episode. You get the direction, the story, the plot, and the music, and the acting and the likes. So I feel like the music can push it up a little bit, so sometimes that happens for me. But anyway, getting a little bit off track. So we come to the ending, and what goes on? Oh yeah, Danny, as I mentioned before, sends back the kid to try and make him not look like such a bad person. And then we say, bye-bye Danny, bye-bye. And you still have to come back at Christmas, because everybody wanted that, didn't they? We all wanted to see Danny Pink again. Yeah! So then we get them both lying, and that really great sort of poignant scene with the Doctor and the TARDIS going out to look for Gallifrey, and seeing his pain and rage at the fact that he can't find his home, he can't go back to his home. It's really a telling scene, although I feel it's slightly devalued by the last two parts of Series 9, I'll explain in a second. But it was such a great scene to see, because we frankly rarely see how much pain he feels about not being able to go back to Gallifrey. Yes, he saved it, but he can't find it. And, well, at this point at least. And I feel like that was a great, really on his own, letting his emotions out, that absolute inner rage, that as much as he always runs away from home and sort of seems like, oh, it's a bad place, I don't really like it that much, he still really so badly wants to get back. And I feel like that's where it'd been slightly devalued in Series 9, because at the end of Heaven Sent, the one slight disappointment with Heaven Sent is there's no big reaction to get him getting back to Gallifrey. Because he thinks it's the TARDIS. He says, oh, home, it must be the TARDIS, blah, blah, blah. When he's about to break through the Asbantium, something like that. I can't remember the Byzantium, that's Time of Angels, isn't it? Asbantium, he breaks through that. And then suddenly it's just like, oh yeah, there's Gallifrey. Cool, I'm back. It's good. I want to go take over the world, basically. So it would be nicer if there'd been a bit more of a sort of reaction of pleasure and excitement. But I guess well, as I mentioned, he wasn't really the Doctor in those last 2 episodes. Well, from his raging moment at Ashilda in Face of the Raven, before Clara dies, through to the end of Hellbent, he's not the Doctor. So I feel like maybe that's why he had a different reaction, a lesser reaction, because his mind, he'd just been doing this sort of loopy stuff for 4.5 billion years. Loopy stuff, Jeremy. And his mind was like fully on getting Clara back. It was all about getting Clara back no matter what the cost. And so that probably sort of occupying his mind rather than, oh, it's Gallifrey, it's back. This is the greatest thing that's happened to me since 2013. Or 2000, when did he last be there actually? When was he last properly on Gallifrey? Was it Arc of Infinity or 5 Doctors? What came first? I can't remember what first came first, Arc of Infinity or the 5 Doctors. But certainly I don't think, because Trial of Time I just watched that first time recently, and that's all just set on a space freighter. It's never actually on Gallifrey despite having time lots and stuff in it. And I don't think Sylvester McCoy ever went to Gallifrey, nor did Paul McGann, well at least in the TV, I'm just focusing TV series here. And so that would somewhat explain why he had a lesser reaction to Gallifrey than the rage we've seen from Death in Heaven. And certainly I hope Gallifrey comes back next series, but I've already talked about that bit, so I'll leave it there. So then we get that, we get Clara lying as well about Danny being back, and they sort of are really just sort of, from our point of view, sad, but for them it's sort of like, this is just it's a bit sad for them, but it's kind of like, I feel like it was right for her story with Clara to not leave there. I feel like it was an unsatisfactory conclusion. They both left each other lying to each other, they were both trying to control the other, exactly. That's a nice sort of little, they're both control freaks inside, if you like, and they both want to be in control and saying, oh yeah, you go off, oh I'll go and you can stay and it'll be happy days, I'll be fine, or I'll be fine and it'll be great. And so yeah, it was a nice moment, but I feel like it was right that it didn't end there and that it did go through to Last Christmas. Yes, arguably I know lots of people say that maybe Clara should have left in Last Christmas, but I think that Series 9 was amazing and that she was right to stay for then, but that's sort of not really relevant. So yeah, then that pretty much wraps up the episode. We get the nice little scene. Thanks for making me feel special. Thank you for exactly the same. And that's just a nice little moment there, which that's the sort of line you could end a companion on, but I feel like it was undramatic, but maybe that would have fitted in with the episode in terms of Danny dying and leaving. An undramatic death. Clara would have had an undramatic exit, but instead she has the whole 8-minute speech of facing the Raven and then resurrection and then flying away in the TARDIS, which I like, but I can see where people don't like it and how that could have been better there. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up the episode. We get the old Santa Claus little cameo, harking back to the RTD days of random links to the Christmas special at the end of a finale episode, just because you love a little cliffhanger and something to tide you over and that kind of thing. So that was a nice little moment, and it kind of confirmed that yeah, Clara's going to be in the Christmas special, isn't she? Even though we kind of already knew that, but it's nice to just confirm that. So yeah, that was Dark Water and Death in Heaven. I probably could have gone into a lot more depth in it. I'm sure there's lots of things I've missed and stuff, so apologies if I've missed something that you would like me to talk about or whatever. But overall, Dark Water, a very, very good episode. I think I gave that a actually let's have a quick look here. I can't actually remember what I gave it. I think it's like a 9, 8.8, something like that. My little spreadsheet of all my episode scores I've got here. Dark Water 8.6. Very, very, very good episode. Like the cliffhanger, it's just all the concepts. There is a criticism in that Moffat. I've seen a lot of people's criticisms of Moffat is that he tries to throw too many concepts into episodes and then doesn't explore them. He just sort of dumps a load of concepts into an episode, some of them interesting, some of them not, and then doesn't use any of them, and just sort of moves on to the one uninteresting plot point for the rest of the story. I think that's what Stu Bagfull with He Who Moans does reviews. It's just sometimes painful because they're all a bit... He's always so miserable about episodes, but sometimes he has a fair point that Moffat does kind of just dump all the ideas on the table and doesn't use any of them. Whereas he should just pick one or two good ideas and then really expand on them, and that's sort of where the story's been let down a little bit, so that's a bit disappointing. But 8.6 for Dark Water and a 7.9, although tomorrow it might be less or more, Death in Heaven, because literally every time I watch it I have a different opinion of it. Sometimes I love it, sometimes I hate it, sometimes I think eh. And this time I thought it was a bit better, because it was down like 7.2, I brought it up to 7.9 when I last watched it a couple of weeks back. It was a lot better, but I think it depends what mood you're in really, and I know I'd recommend, if you've got the time, to watch Dark Water and Death in Heaven together when you do watch it. I think it works better as a whole story rather than letting the cliffhanger hang and then just having that one episode, 60 minutes to sort of go through at the end of it. So there we go, that was my review of Dark Water and Death in Heaven. This will hopefully be the first in a series of episode reviews. I'm going to try and get a sort of episode review out near enough every week, hopefully. It'll usually be on either a Friday or a Saturday night, well, UK time. And yeah, let me know if there's any episodes you want me to review. Do you want me to sit and watch something great like Heaven Sent or Witches Familiar or Day of the Doctor, a really good episode? Or you want to watch you sit back and watch In the Forest of the Night or Fear Her or The Twin Dilemma or Time Lash, or one of these terrible episodes? Do you want me to go and sit back and watch one of those and then do a review on it? Let me know if there's an episode you'd particularly like me to talk about. I'm happy to talk about any, pretty much. Well, if I can find them, because I don't have all the classic DVDs, we've got the new stuff. So it's easy if you give me new series reviews, because I can watch the episodes. Because I prefer to watch them off the DVDs, better quality, just nicer to watch than watching it on Dailymotion or something. So yeah, try to stick to New Who, but I'll try and do a classic Who review if you are interested. And I'm also going to, as I'm rewatching all the New Who series at the moment, well, very slowly, 2 episodes a week, I'm going to be doing a review of each series when I finish it. So my Series 1 review will probably be up in about a month or so, I'd say, when I finish it, because I'm on episode 7 at the moment. So it'll be like 3 or 4 weeks before I finish it, and then I'll do a nice sort of little review and roundup of all the episodes. I mean, Series 1's been great so far watching it. Such a good series. I mean, the Slithines are pretty solid. That was a much better episode than I remembered. I mean, it's a classic, and Dalek's so good. And yeah, it's just great. So anyway, I'll save that for another video. So yeah, let me know if let me know your thoughts on Dark Water and Death in Heaven, and let me know if there's another episode you want me to review. Oh, and one other thing, when eventually the Series 9 soundtrack hopefully gets announced, I'll do a little video on that. Just a quick short one discussing, oh, look at all these tracks, they sound great, and what's missing, and that kind of thing. So yeah, and also, well, this will be a bit more relevant in when the Series 9 soundtrack is announced, but I'd like to know whether you would prefer, when the Series 9 soundtracks come out, for me to just do the sort of 3-hour video with all the soundtrack in one video, as I did with Series 8. Would you like me to do just that, or would you like me to do each track in an individual video as well? Because obviously that can clog up the subscribers' feeds and stuff when you've got another 70 videos of like a couple of minutes coming in, and it kind of clogs up my channel as well as the subscriber stuff. I did it with Series 8 because lots of people wanted it, but let me know, obviously a bit more, it's not really that relevant now, so you don't need to let me know now, but when I get that Series 9 soundtrack video going, then do let me know which one you prefer, whether you'd like to be able to hear just the full soundtrack. Hopefully you're going to buy it. I mean, you've got to support Murray Gold and the BBC to keep them releasing those soundtracks, so it'd be worth buying it, but I will stick them up. So yeah, let me know what you prefer. So this has been my Doctor Who, Dark Water and Death in Heaven review. I'll be back for another one hopefully next week. Give me a suggestion or I'll just pick something. I don't know. I have no idea what I'm going to do at the moment, so it'll be a surprise. And I'm Elliot. I'm EMS Productions. Remember to like, subscribe, comment your views and anything you like really. And I'll see you again soon for another Doctor Who review.